What are you doing here?
I'm here to see my lawyer.
She doesn't want to see you.
That bitch ain't my lawyer.
You bought an apartment for someone. Can you get it back? You can sue her for it.
All right, Sistas fans, now in the promo for next week, the finale, as well as the synopsis, episode 22, Make Him Great. Gary seeks Hayden's guidance on taking legal action for his buyer's remorse. Basically, he's trying to get back the penthouse and probably all the other stuff he bought for Andi. Now, buyer's remorse is a thing, and as Hayden said, when Gary asked, can I get it back? Well, you can sue. It's just a matter of what's going to happen with that. Now, I did some research into buyer's remorse, and apparently, depending on the situation, there's a huge difference between, okay, let's say, if you're a guy with a group of friends and they pressure you to buy yo man, we got a fishing trip coming up, buy a new rod and reel or something, like that. Or a woman with a group of friends, and she's pressured into buying like a new pair of shoes or a dress for a party or something. And then, not long after the purchase, you feel like it was a decision made out of, anxiety. And as a result, you regret the decision. Now, with that being said, those situations are different. Typically, it depends on the store's return policy, and or if you have a receipt, versus buying something like a house, a car, or something involving a contract. Because after doing some intensive research, apparently buyer's remorse is indeed a thing, and in some cases it's easily handled, but in other cases it will cost you big time. Things like cars, vacation trips, major electronic purchases, real estate, contract purchases. Those are like the top 5 most expensive cases of buyer's remorse. Now, first off, from what we know story-wise, Andi, aside from work, I know her and Karen went on a joyride, but going to work, going to Danny's house, Andi probably hasn't ran up the mileage on that Rolls Royce that much, so there's that possibility of her being able to, Gary getting the car back. But I don't know. I think the major difference is, because when I was doing this research, whenever it comes down to buyer's remorse, it's about an individual making a purchase. But I think the thing that's going to stunt Gary's case is the fact that he put it in someone else's name. Now, despite my research, I wasn't able to really find any kind of solid, facts or evidence to kind of see whether or not Gary stands a good chance of this. But I think he pretty much shot himself in both feet, not just shot himself in the foot, between the house, the car, all this other stuff that he purchased and he gave to someone else. But I think that Andi claims she's leaving the penthouse, but I don't know. First of all, remember, Gary was the one that put all of her stuff in storage, so you'd think she would make Gary put the stuff back, or, find out where her stuff is and, bring her own stuff back. I don't know. But remember, we're talking Aaron and Karen here. These two are the biggest flip-floppers of emotion, even more so to an extent than Danny and Sabrina. So I wouldn't rule it out that, Andi won't go back to the penthouse. Karen was about teaching Gary a lesson after everything he did to her, but if Gary is trying to get the penthouse back and Andi doesn't want it, could he get it back? Despite putting it in her name at this point in time, I still don't think she signed the paperwork to confirm the purchase or the ownership of said penthouse. So Gary might be able to get it back. I don't know for sure due to the fact that I'm not a legal expert, but I just feel like perhaps Andi might get in a situation where if she learns Gary's trying to take all that stuff back by force, then in retaliation, she's going to be like, oh, no, I'm going to keep this, which is interesting. And again, I'm just speculating here because, last night she was all, oh, he can have it, he can give it back. But Karen is fully aware that Andi's an emotional, just, I don't know. She's so wishy-washy. One moment, you know what? Nah, that's too much. He's spying on me. I'm done. And then next thing you know, well, he did say he's sorry, and I ought to see if he's changed. Bullshit. We know how this thing goes. It's just the fact that Gary's being an ass and being quote-unquote remorseful of his purchases. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where the housing market is shit right now, and so are rent prices. So, Andi, I'd keep the pen out. Put up some curtains or something, or, I don't know, do something. But hell, if you're worried about him watching you, I'm just saying. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, do you think this plan is going to work? Honestly, I don't really care. I just don't, because season 5, it's probably going to be the same old thing. He's going to be mad, take everything back, and he's like, Gary, I'm sorry. Excuse me, Andi, I'm so sorry. It's like, no, just no. I think for me personally, if Andi is done with the penthouse, whether or not Gary takes or sells it, who cares? Let's say she goes back to her old apartment. My thing is, what if Robin's invited to come see Andi again, and then it's like, wait, I thought you were in the penthouse, and then it's in the apartment, and she has to explain, or maybe Robin figures out. So let me guess, Mr. Gary's the one who bought you that penthouse. And not to mention with Gary working with Hayden at the law firm on his buyer's remorse case, clearly Robin's going to know about it. I feel like Andi won't be straightforward about it at first. It's like, oh no, I wanted to, downgrade, so I just opted for the apartment, or this is my getaway from the penthouse life or something. And then Robin finds out the truth based on Hayden, working on the case, and then he is pretty much done with Andi. I could see that. It's kind of funny if that's the situation where, burning the candle at both ends gets Andi burned. At first, messing around with Robin in order to quote unquote test Gary. Gary found out about it, and then he's done with her because he's pissed another man was in the penthouse he bought for her. Then on the reverse of that, Robin is like, you know what? This isn't working, Andi. I'm done. The whole thing about you not being over Gary and whatnot, and then you're just using me. I'm not saying that Andi's going to lose her job, but she's going to lose her position as, Robin's favorite employee, so to speak. So that's what the freak she gets, and I don't care. She's going to have a wake-up call just like Karen when the Heather rolled up with that child last night. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Will Gary's case with buyer's remorse turn out to be successful? Regardless, man, I don't really care. So make sure you take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Hit subscribe, hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. And that's about it. I'll catch you in the next one.